Thank you for joining us today. I'm Sarah Scandrett, and I'm Head of Admissions and Enrollment Management at St. Mildred's Lightbourne School. I'm joined this morning by three panelists from whom you will be hearing shortly. Our Kids has provided me with some questions to ask of the panelists to help you learn a little bit more about the school. And if time allows, I will ask a few additional questions, and I've incorporated some commonly asked questions about SMLS. First, let me briefly introduce you to the school. At St. Mildred's Lightbourne School, girls from preschool to grade 12 experience an enriched academic and co-curricular program delivered by teachers who are experts in educating girls. We support each girl's interests, talents, learning needs, and strengths, and our world-class facility and signature programs equip her to achieve excellence in whatever path she chooses. To learn even more about the school, I encourage you to explore the website or to register for one of our open houses. This session today is designed to share insights from a few of our graduates and our current parents, and I'm excited for you to hear about the school through them. So now I'm going to take just a moment to introduce our three panelists, and I will ask them each to briefly introduce themselves and indicate their connection to SMLS. First, we have Alexandra Hahn, a recent graduate. Alexandra, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, for sure. Thank you. So I graduated back in 2019, so not too long ago, and I'm currently at the University of Toronto studying industrial engineering.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear your perspective later today. Next, I'd like to introduce Anne-Marie Tice. And as SMLS has a 128-year history, I'm going to say that Anne-Marie is also a recent graduate of the school. Anne-Marie, would you like to add a few details about yourself?
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, not quite 128 years ago. Sometimes it feels that way, but yes, I graduated in 1990. I have three daughters that one of whom is still attending, going into grade 10 this year, and two of my older daughters have graduated, one this year and one with Alex back in 2019. My journey after St. Mildred's took me to Wilfrid Laurier, and then I ended up with a degree in communications and ended up working in a consulting firm and found myself living in the UK and starting a family over there. And so when it was time to move back to Canada, Donna Cosset in the office at St. Mildred's was the first person I put a phone call into.
It's so wonderful when the connections are so long lasting. And finally, this morning, I'd like to introduce Juliet Nishimura. Juliet is a current parent with two daughters progressing through the school. And Juliet, would you like to add anything further?
Thanks, Sarah. So I feel like I've been at St. Mildred's for over 10 years, but my daughter's only going into grade 6. We started when my oldest was in preschool, and she started at 2.5. I think she wasn't quite 2.5 yet, and she was one of the first cohort for the newly formed preschool, which has really been thriving. It's a great feature for the school, and so that's kind of how we were introduced into St. Mildred's. I did not attend St. Mildred's, but I did attend a very similar school in the UK, all girls independent school as well. So it felt like I had gone back home. So I was trying to give my daughters the same type of experience.
That's fascinating. I hadn't realized that you had been educated at an all-girls school as well. Neat. So as I mentioned, we have a series of questions that I will pose to our panelists. And these are questions that have been provided to me by our kids and may be familiar if you have watched other roundtable conversations, but I'm sure the answers will differ quite significantly from what you've heard from other schools. So I'll start with Anne-Marie. And Anne-Marie, can you share with me what you've appreciated most about the school during your time as a student, and how has your perspective on that changed now that you have some distance from the school?
I think that during my time at the school, and certainly once I had graduated, I realized that I came out of an environment, an all-girls environment, thinking the sky is the limit. There was nothing that I I couldn't do any industry I was interested in going into, any kind of job. I didn't see any barrier to anything I wanted to pursue. And in fact, once I was out of university and I was working for a consulting firm, I was organizing a Women in Leadership conference. And I think this ties in nicely with your question, because I remember this is probably one of my first projects sort of out of university. And I paused for a minute at the idea of it because I didn't really understand what the need was to distinguish between a conference for leadership in general. Obviously, certainly as I got older, but certainly as that conference unfolded, I recognized the different challenges, obviously, that females face within the corporate world, and balancing family and work and that kind of thing. But it always stayed with me that my time at St. Mildred's made me question, why was that a necessary thing? So I think the confidence that I developed at a school like St. Mildred's, where I graduated feeling, I can go down any path I want to, and there's no issue because of my gender. I really appreciated that. So.
Thank you. I think that resonates with a lot of our graduates and the stories that I've heard. So thank you for sharing that. Alexandra, do you have anything you'd like to add? Or was your perspective any different?
I think Anne-Marie said a good chunk of it, and kind of like adding on to it is SMLS always had a really welcoming environment, and because of that, I felt I was really able to learn how to challenge myself. And with that opportunity, the teachers provided during my time there, I learned how to tackle problems head on, take a different approach to them, look at it from different perspectives, as well as learn when to take breaks. And I definitely learned that through the various academic courses, as well as some of the extracurriculars I participated in. And a lot of the teachers there were really supportive and encouraging constantly throughout a bunch of the problems that I felt I wanted some help with, and they would help guide me to a solution that ultimately I myself would come up with. They would never give it to me straight out. And I think that really helped with learning how to push myself. And now being away from the school for 2 years, I've definitely seen how I've been able to implement that through my academic coursework, as well as new extracurriculars I get to participate in. And with having done about a year in person now and a year online, I've seen both of those struggles doing the academics in both aspects, and especially with the online learning, it's not easy for anyone. And I think learning how to overcome that and being able to push myself to reach out when I need help, go to the office hours, that all comes back to what I learned at SMLS and what those teachers have taught me.
What great skills to build up in high school. I think I think back to my high school experience, and I think some of those skills were missing, and were things I had to learn as an adult. And you maybe didn't appreciate them in the moment as a student at SMLS, but to learn to think for yourself and solve problems on your own is pretty remarkable, I think, in a high school student. So congratulations to you. And Alexandra, I'll ask you another question. What, to the best of your knowledge, most differentiates, sorry, I can't speak. What, to the best of your knowledge, most differentiates SMLS from other schools?
Yeah, I definitely had to think about this one. There are so many different aspects I feel like I could talk about, but the one that I really wanted to focus on was the Global Studies program. I felt like that was super unique to SMLS, and from all of the opportunities, from camping in our own backyard in Ontario to getting out of country travel experience, that was absolutely phenomenal. To say the least. And I think I was able to learn so many different skills through that, from camping, learning how to start a fire. That's not something you get to do in a classroom. So that was always a lot of fun, as well as, out of the country travel. I got to learn more about the culture from the countries I visited, get to meet some of the locals there, pick up a few phrases in the local language. As well as I believe in most of the countries I went to, there was a little bit of a service aspect. We got to help out a local community there. And on top of that, we got to apply a lot of what we were learning in the classroom to real life situations. And that was definitely an extremely unique experience, and I'm super thankful for that. And on top of that, I also got to bond with my classmates outside of the classroom in a traditional aspect, and we got to know everyone on a more personal level. And it helped bond those friendships and help have something to keep in touch with as we all grow older.
Thanks, Alexander. I'm glad you highlighted one of our signature programs. Global Citizenship is one of our, I think it's 7 signature programs. So it's great that was certainly one of the differentiators for you. Is there one global studies trip your global citizenship trip that you went on that really stands out?
I think I would have to say I got to participate in the exchange to Perth, Australia with one of our sister schools there back in grade 9 or grade 10. I can't remember now. But I got to travel like pretty much all the way across the world by myself. So that was a huge learning opportunity. Just navigating the airport by myself at that young, I think, was something that I definitely had to overcome. And just living in a different country with a different family for a few months was just a whole different experience. And I had so much fun getting to meet new people and getting to learn in a different school environment. So that one would probably be the highlight for me.
That's amazing. Congratulations. It's pretty brave of you to head across the world on your own. Well done. And Anne-Marie, for you, what would you say most differentiates SMLS from other schools?
I absolutely do agree with Alex with global studies, but she's done a very good job of covering that. I would say something that for myself and seeing my girls graduate from what is in essence a small school, yet it has provided them and myself with so many different opportunities. So friends that I know whose children might go to other small institutions, they seem to be really lacking perhaps in the different opportunities, be it global studies or the extracurriculars or the sports teams. And for a school of our size, I never think that there are opportunities that a bigger school has that, I wish that we had. I mean, from whether or not you are an athlete, a musician, a theater person, a theater girl, somehow we managed to provide our girls with these very special opportunities outside of the classroom. And I think I take my hat off to the faculty that they're able to provide this, because I so appreciate the size from the numbers in the classroom, but when I think about all the different opportunities that that girls have outside the classroom, it just amazes me that I think every element is touched on. As I said, whether you're theater or sporty, St. Mildred's in its smaller communities is able to provide these opportunities. So I really am thankful for that.
That's wonderful. And it is true. I think there are so many opportunities at this school. We don't serve just one type of student. That it's pretty neat. And I think with probably your 3 daughters, each of them has slightly different interests. And, you could probably look at it and think that they had entirely different school experiences. Absolutely. In the same institution. Yeah, that's neat. This is kind of a fun question. So Anne-Marie, I'll ask you first, and then we'll move to Alexandra. If the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like in only 3 words, and why?
This answer comes to me almost immediately, which I think is a real testament The three words that I would use to describe St. Mildred's or their graduates would be strength, confidence, and character. And the girls that might have to work a little bit harder if there's some extra help that they need, or whatever it means to them to demonstrate their inner strength, I think is a very characteristic you see across the board. By demonstrating that strength, by that being encouraged, the girls can't help but gain in their confidence, which I've seen in myself as a graduate and in my two older daughters. I'm so impressed with, as they're going off to university or have gone off, the things that they confidently get involved in and participate in the university environment. And I think those two key elements have developed and shaped their character in ways I probably didn't. I knew there were going to be a lot of benefits to a school like St. Mildred's. But when I really reflect on it, the way it has shaped their character is just so impressive to me, and quite overwhelming. And so, yeah, strength, confidence, and character, I think, would be my three words.
Certainly positive descriptors, I think. I'm just going to ask, did anyone else, did Anne-Marie go a little bit glitchy at the very start of her response? Okay. Do you remember, Anne-Marie, you started it, you shared the three words, and then there was something that you said just after that.
About strength?
We got most of it. I think we got most of what you said.
Okay, I think I started off talking about how their strength is developed on so many levels, whether it's in the classroom with support, that some students are going to be top of the class, some students are going to need a little bit of extra support. And I think that their inner strength is developed through the type of learning environment, the nurturing environment that they have at St. Mildred's, that helps to develop this element of strength.
Perfect. I think that's exactly what we missed. Thank you. And Alexandra, what would your three words be to describe the personality of SMLS, and why have you chosen those words?
I had a similar one to Henry. I also said confidence, but on top of that, I would also say independent and welcoming. I spent 14 years at SMLS, so from the start of junior kindergarten all the way to grade 12. And throughout that entire time, SMLS always felt like a second home to me, which is why I would say welcoming. Everyone there was always super happy to, wave hi to you in the hall, say hi, as well as just, there was always someone to talk to or be with, so you never really felt alone when you were there, and I really appreciated that. And that's why I would definitely say SMLS is welcoming. And similar to Henry and description about the confidence aspect, I think speaking a little bit earlier about how SMLS taught me to challenge myself, I think that also comes with the confidence aspect, knowing when to push yourself and when to stand up for your opinions. And that's definitely been something that I've used within my first 2 years of university. Being in a male-dominated program, sometimes it's harder to get your opinion there or get your idea to push through on a group project. And knowing what I've been taught at SMLS, like I've never been afraid to say what I've had to say and defend my opinion. And that's been super important during my group projects, and being able to make sure that I push our group to be the best, and that aspect has been really vital throughout that those two first years of my university life. And then the independent aspect, I think, drawing back to my description about the global studies program, SMLS really, I would say, safely pushes you outside of your comfort zone. And in doing so, it really teaches you to be independent and learn how to, once again, tackle problems on your own. And that's why I think with those 3 words for me, that's what describes SMLS.
We're going to need to incorporate some of these words into our marketing materials, I think. It's fantastic. And we'll start maybe with you, Alexandra, on this one. What one thing would you change about the school if you could make a change for the better?
This one was definitely hard to think about as well. There's so many aspects I love about the school, but as I previously mentioned, I spent 14 years at SMLS, so I went through each 3 of the schools. And one thing that I felt like maybe would have enriched my experience just a little bit more was getting to know more girls from different parts of the schools. You know, when I was in junior school, getting to know a few more of the senior girls, and just having like a friendly face to say hi to in the halls, and vice versa when I was in senior school. While we obviously have the big sister, little sister program, that was also a great experience to get to know some of the girls, but I wish there was, a little bit more of a personal connection there that I would have been able to develop during my time.
Yeah, neat. I'll pass that on. Maybe it's something that we can work on. And I should clarify, you mentioned the 3 different schools. So within one school building, SMLS has a junior school, which is preschool to the end of grade 5. We move then into a middle school for the differing needs of girls through their middle school years, and that's grade 6, 7, and 8. And then our senior school is our grade 9 to 12 students. So 3 schools within the one school community. And Anne-Marie, if you could make a change to the school, looking back, what's one thing you might change?
I think if it could be possible, so just to sound really old and say back in my day, there was another school that was an all boys school in Oakville, and we were basically, I think, considered a brother and sister school. Since then, they have gone co-ed, and that relationship doesn't seem to be there anymore. I do really love and appreciate when my girls have the opportunity. I think they can, well, they've had dances with boys' schools in Toronto, or they've done some academic initiatives with other schools, but they're quite far away. So, putting your daughter on a bus to go to her first dance when she's going up to Aurora, it would be great if somehow, either, I don't know if it would be possible to strengthen or to redevelop relationships with some of the co-ed and independent schools in the area, or perhaps as a result of COVID, these boys' schools that are further afield, perhaps there might be some more academic initiatives sort of via Zoom, just for the girls to get a little bit more experience. Because I think when they do have these opportunities, it can be quite a big deal, which is always fun, but it would be nice to have a little bit more of a regular interaction. Yeah, I think that would be the one area I could see some change.
Yeah. It's funny too, I look back at how far I think the schools have come, the single gender schools, in terms of finding opportunities for some of the mixing. I went to an all-girls school for many years, and back in my day, what those social opportunities looked like was limited, and it was a few dances during the course of the year. And so I think there have been some positives in that, it might be service events, it might be an arts night, or they do, some other kind of social mixing or opportunities that do allow some of the single gender schools to have social opportunities for the girls, or create social opportunities for our girls. But you're right, the geographic element, being the only single gender school here in Oakville that goes right through to high school does create some limitations. So maybe they will continue with some of those Zoom type activities that I know they did launch last year. And again, during COVID, there were a few opportunities created that meant that we didn't have to take the bus.
I think about it. My older daughter did go to the Galapagos with a boys' school, and consequently is at university with some of those good friends that she made on that trip. Now, I don't recall that there have been many other trips that were with other schools. I don't know if I'm wrong, Alex, but I know that was, I loved that, it was a great experience for them to mix and develop. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I think usually there's maybe one or two of the global citizenship trips that might be paired with one of the other single gender independent schools. And then they'll also, with some of the Round Square conference trips, we might travel with other Round Square schools from the area and things like that. So they end up fostering some connections through those opportunities as well. What do you think, Anne-Marie, I'll ask you this next question first. What do you think families would find most surprising about SMLS?
I think if you're new to an all-girls environment, I think it's been my experience that people who aren't familiar with it make a lot of assumptions that the girls are competitive with one another, or there can be cattiness and that kind of negative environment. And I think St. Mildred's especially, that is just, could not be farther from the truth. It is such a supporting environment and nurturing. And I think there are the opportunities, and I think, as Alex mentioned, perhaps there could be more, but the opportunities for the younger students to be able to see these older girls as role models. I think that is something that perhaps when you initially have little ones and you might be looking at St. Mildred's, you might not consider, but it's a really big thing. I know my oldest daughter, when she was in grade 5, befriended on a school trip. They were doing something with the older girls, and this girl became a babysitter, and she went on to become the head girl. My girls just looked up to her and followed the path that she was leading very, very closely. And I think that is, you expect high academics, and you expect great teachers, and there's a lot of things that you expect from starting in a school like St. Mildred's, but I think that is really an important thing that is an added bonus.
I don't know, Anne-Marie, that I've ever shared this story with you. And in fact, Charlotte may not even remember this interaction, but I have a daughter whose name is also Charlotte. Oh. And when she was in JK, your daughter, was interacting with some of the JK girls as they were having their lunch, and mentioned her name or something. Anyway, my daughter learned that your daughter's name was the same as hers, and just latched on to your Charlotte. And I think every time she saw her in the hall, there was like this momentous occasion in my daughter's world. And, she just felt this connection with your daughter that, was something so innocent at lunch one day, but it was very meaningful to my young daughter, and the impression that she made with my daughter was quite remarkable. But I also like, Anne-Marie, that you shared the piece of the misperception that families sometimes have about an all girls environment. And it's a question that I often get in my role in admissions that, parents will ask. And it's unfortunate because I think girls have a bad rap, right? And and it's what fascinates me, and we see this replicated here at SMLS, is that there's research that's been done by the National Coalition of Girls' Schools into the experience that girls have in an all-girls environment versus in a co-ed environment, the outcomes for girls in who've experienced an all-girls education or an all-girls setting for education versus a co-ed setting. And one of the things that is reported is girls in an all-girls environment will report a higher level of support and connection with their peers in that all-girls environment than girls will report in a co-ed environment. And there tend to be fewer discipline issues and things like that. So it's certainly a misperception that more girls equals, you know, more cattiness or more mean behavior or anything like that. And I think that's certainly what we see at the school and what is reported in research findings. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Anne-Marie. Yeah. And what about you, Alexandra? What do you think families might find surprising about SMLS?
I think what I would say for this one is it goes back to the out of classroom experiences and opportunities, specifically the extracurricular experiences from, you know, the athletic teams to the arts to the STEM-based clubs. There's so many opportunities for girls to get involved and apply what they're learning like inside the classroom to teams and clubs outside. And the faculty goes back, like as I go back to it, faculty is so supportive. There's always, you know, a teacher who's willing to support a new initiative. If there's a girl who is really passionate about something and she wants to start a club. I remember like throughout my time in the senior school, every single year at the club fair, there was always at least 2 or 3 more clubs, new ones that popped up. And it was because, you know, there were 1 or 2 girls who were super passionate about this one area or this one subject. And they found, you know, a faculty member to help support them. And they were able to get together a bunch of other girls who were equally passionate about the same subject. And, you know, and they were able to talk about the issues. They had action items and things like that. And I think that that is absolutely amazing that they're able to start those initiatives on their own. And on top of that, like with the pre-existing clubs and teams there's so many leadership opportunities. So that goes back to I think what both Sarah and Anne-Marie said about the older girls becoming more like role models. When I was in the younger schools, like I definitely looked up to those girls because they had developed so many leadership skills through these extracurriculars, being able to know how to people manage, how to interact with other people. And I definitely got my fair share of learning those skills as well throughout the different clubs and experiences I had been on. So I would definitely say that there's so many opportunities to get involved, so many different areas of interest as well, and definitely something to check out.
Thanks, Alexandra. I have a feeling some of what you've just shared might feed into this next question. What advice would you give to students just entering SMLS?
Yeah, so as I said, since I've been I went to SMLS for pretty much the entire time, I never had that opportunity to really be a new girl. But from what I've seen is when people come in, like I was always excited to meet new people, and I think it was the same with a lot of my other classmates. And I would have to say, like, don't be nervous. I know starting a new school can be hard. I finally got that experience when I started university, but everyone at SMLS is always super excited to like get to know you and get to know a little bit about you. And I would say like by the first week, you'll know everyone's name. It's like that's something that's really great about that small environment as well. And everyone wants to be your friend. Everyone wants to, you know a little bit about you. And I think that that's something you don't need to be worried about when you start SMLS.
Thanks, Alexandra. Anne-Marie, do you have any advice that you might give to a student just entering the school?
I think especially if they are coming from a co-ed environment, and perhaps, you know, an all girls school is a real unknown to someone, just to be really open to get involved, to, you know, whatever sort of strikes your fancy, you know, just go to that first meeting for that club or that extracurricular, and you know, if it's not for you, it's fine, but the faculty is so welcoming and so supportive. And so I think just going in and being really open. And as Alex said, I mean, it's true. I think the girls there, they really, you know, they want to get to know new students, and it's a very welcoming environment. So I think having a really open mind and just being prepared to say yes. I think saying yes is a big thing. Just go and try whatever it is you're interested in, and you know, you will definitely find your place in your home, and hopefully some new challenges that you might not have expected.
I love that. Thank you. And thank you both for your perspectives as alum of the school. It's really helpful, I think, to hear your voices. And so now, on that note, we'll move on to questions directed more towards parent members of our panel. So we'll get to hear from Juliet, and Anne-Marie will hear from you again. You're wearing two hats for us today. But Juliet, let's start with you. Why did you choose SMLS initially? And in what ways has the school, in what ways is the school what you expected? And in what ways is it not quite what you expected or different from what you'd expected?
Thanks. So as I mentioned when I was doing my welcome, we were looking for a preschool initially for my daughter. So first child, she hadn't gone to daycare, hadn't really interacted with other children, and my mother, who's in education, had suggested, you know, there's some things that you cannot really teach. You can't teach children to share. You can't teach them to play well with others. So with those reasons, we started looking for preschool. At the time, my daughter was 2, going 2.5. And we were new to Oakville, looking around to see where it would be fit. So we went to a variety of different schools and did try some. And then we landed at SMLS. They just started their preschool program. And I remember my daughter saying, "This is my school. This is where I want to be." And she just really felt that it clicked with her, the program. She was a very, very shy child. Donna Cossett was giving us a tour. She said, "Do you want to spend some time in the preschool room?" And she said, "Okay," which is something that we'd never really experienced with her before, being so shy. And she just really fit in. Everybody was so welcoming. The program was very well organized. There was a lot of different options. We didn't want her to go full day because she was still young. She was still napping. So we started at preschool, and we said, you know, we'll see how it goes. And, you know, 8 years later, we're still there. I love the school. My kids are always, "Please do not change us. We have to stay. We don't want to move." Not that I threaten. So that's kind of been my bargaining chip, where it's, you know, if they're trying to not behave too well, it's like, "Well, do you want to stay in the school?" So they love it. You know, they say such positive things. We were looking for, again, a school that really met our children's needs, because, you know, there's a lot of really good schools around. And we landed at St. Mildred's. It fitted our child's needs. It's small classes. I think Anne-Marie and Alex have mentioned this, that they do really cater to individual learning needs, and really will meet the child at their point of need. And we've seen that throughout, since we've been through preschool. We're moving on to middle school now. There's a great connection. When I ask my children about the school, I keep hearing the word community. They don't say it's my class, it's my community, my friends. And so that really has fostered something in us that it's exceeded our expectations, if you will. The last couple years have been hard with all the things that have been happening, and there's still a huge connection. Like, the school is agile. I like the fact that although my kids are only 2 years apart, they don't have the same experience because teachers keep changing, they keep learning, keep trying new different methods, bringing in different things that are coming out in the world today. So it's not the same education that we went through. It's constantly evolving and changing with the times for the better. So I really like that about the school, that they're constantly pushing the not just the kids, but the teachers as well, the faculty, to learn new methods, to learn new things. And there's always continuous education. So I really like that they're looking at different ways to teach and adapting with the changing times.
That's nice to hear. I think it's important that the teachers model learning for students as well. It's not just a one-way type of experience. So that's nice to hear, Juliet. Thank you. Anne-Marie, obviously, as a graduate of the school, your selection of SMLS for your daughters might have been a little bit different. But do you want to share your thoughts in enrolling your daughters here, and ways that the schools met or exceeded your expectations in that regard?
Absolutely. And I don't know that I've shared this story with you, Sarah. St. Mildred's, we were living in the UK. My 3 daughters were born there. We were in a wonderful, wonderful school over there. It was actually ranked one of the top in the country. It was lucky that we lived close to it. And it was just a school that I couldn't have imagined leaving. Because of St. Mildred's, we moved countries. So at the time, just to make a long story short, at the time, my husband was going out in his own business and had the flexibility. He had, we had family here in Canada. We had talked about the idea of moving back. But as time went on and our experience with this school in the UK went on and our friendships developed, we were so, so happy. And it came to a point that we thought, okay, we weren't going to move our girls at too old an age. We sort of would have wanted to, we always knew we wanted to move them probably by the age of 9 or 10 for an easy transition. So we had this conversation and we decided to come and visit a few schools. Still hadn't committed to making the move back to Canada. And I emailed Donna Cossett, who's getting a mention here a couple of times today. And she said, of course, your girls can come in and visit for half a day. And I thought, great, but just because I was a graduate, because I'd now had this experience in the UK as a parent, I thought, no, I'd better look at a couple of other schools. So we had a few appointments. We came back for a week and we had a few different appointments. St. Mildred's was the first visit that we had. They spent half a day. We were welcomed with open arms. It was a feeling I get quite emotional about, actually, when I think about it. The girls had their morning. We went off into Oakville for lunch. We took a vote as to whether or not we would move back to Canada, and we never even went to the other appointments. It was such an emotional feeling of being welcomed, but there were so many different layers to it. One of the most important things, so my girls had all had fun, they were in the younger grades, that's lovely, and that was an important element. But as we toured around the senior school, this was something actually that I was noticing in the UK when I was looking at senior schools over there. And I was hesitant because there were perhaps some issues that I was seeing that I was concerned about. As I walked around the senior school, I was looking at the type of girl I was trying to raise. And that really, really stuck with me, that this is a place where my girls will be nurtured, where they will learn. I mean, and I will say actually a very pleasant surprise, because I think in the UK, and Juliet might be able to relate to this, they do tend to throw more work very early on. The school starts at age 4. You're doing your spelling tests, your math is starting, very, very early on. And so we had a bit of a homework routine, when they were sort of 4.5 years old. And I hesitated, especially for my third daughter, who had not experienced school in the UK. I hesitated that just by moving back to Canada, perhaps was she going to not be getting to the same level or stages as my other girls had experienced. And absolutely, in a far more relaxed environment, was that a pleasant surprise that she was learning her times tables, you know, right on track with her friends that were still in the UK in nursery school. And so it was just a complete joy that it did happen to be where I had graduated from, but it was a complete, it was an intuitive, it was my instinct as we, you know, completed that first day visiting. And the environment was so, it was so throughout the school that, you know, I remember a former head sort of saying, you know, it almost, I made a joke that it seemed like great customer service when you came for a visit. And she said, oh, we couldn't keep that up. It's in the water. You know, that is the environment, that nurturing environment is there each and every day. And so St. Mildred's was the reason we moved countries.
That's huge. I'm so glad you shared that story. But it is something, you're right, it's something that I hear time and again from families visiting the school, experiencing the school, is that it is that community, that welcoming environment, and it's not a show, right? It's for real, and you feel it every day. So I guess I'll move on to ask a question about what your girls have to say about the school. Just a few highlights or a few things that they come home with. Anne-Marie, do you want to start with that one?
Sure, absolutely. I know Alex did a great job of describing the global studies program at school, but I think I was asking my older daughter this one, and global studies was the first thing that came to her mind. These experiences, she got to travel to China and Argentina. And there was another one, I can't remember. Oh, in the Galapagos. But when she went to China, she'd been taking Mandarin at the school. And so for some of the girls that went with her that maybe weren't taking it, she got to be the one that was bartering in the markets. And that kind of an experience has just stayed with her, and my other girls too, who have experienced them. And I have to say, they were always something I was a bit fearful of. And I recognize, as I've now sent them off to university, or have sent one and sending another one off to university, the global studies program has helped me as a parent kind of let them go out the door, because we've had that kind of experience. And to hear my daughter say that that's one of the biggest things that she has appreciated about St. Mildred's. I also know my oldest, who's going into third year commerce, again, not to sound like a broken record, but the confidence she feels within her classroom environments definitely came from that smaller learning environment. And she doesn't hesitate. She'll talk about how she, in non-COVID times, will go to the TA or the professor for help and have no qualms about it. There's no being self-conscious. She recognizes this is her education, and that she's the one that needs to go and be responsible for it. And I know she recognizes that confidence developed at school. So, as well as her friendships, she's got very, very close friendships that I know she is so grateful for.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Juliet, your girls are still in the thick of things in the school. What do they come home saying?
So, believe it or not, I mean, global studies is huge, but it starts in junior school as well. So that's a big part for them as well. Norval was the first time my daughter slept away from home. Like, that's a huge hit. They start in grade 3, spend a couple nights, and then grade 4 they go back. And that's an opportunity for them to camp outside in the ice. So it's huge highlights, teaching them different pieces and really pushing them outside of their comfort zones, if you will. And like, Anne-Marie and Alex have said, it's about confidence. I've seen my children really thrive in that environment. Teachers do gently nudge you outside of your comfort zone. And I've seen a child that started, very shy, wouldn't speak. And it's now, like they had different opportunities in grade 5. She was a house rep and they were giving different leadership opportunities at a really early age. The fact that they're doing a lot of project-based work in junior school, Wednesdays is dedicated to self-guided project work. And these are skills that you can't really, I'm glad to see that they're being taught at such an early age, because, and Alex can attest to this, being in university projects, you're not going to avoid them even in the workspace. So having them being given those skill sets at such an early age, it's stuff that they'll be able to use for years to come. There's things that you can't teach after a certain age. And those are some of the pieces that I see. And above all, I really see the friendships, the community that's really being reinforced. So it's not just about pushing academics, it's really about raising empowered, well-rounded young women.
Gives me chills as you guys are talking about all these pieces about the school and the impact that it has. Now I'll ask Juliet this question of you. We've already heard from Alexandra and Anne-Marie about if the school were to be represented as a person, what would its personality be in 3 words? So I'll turn that one over to you now, Juliet.
So this was hard for me to come up with just 3 words. And I went back and forth, and I did, I heard Alex and Anne-Marie talk about strength. For me, the words that came to mind were empowerment. So it's a woman who is empowered, versatile, and well-rounded. And I feel that the different skill sets, the different methodologies that are being applied at the school really evokes that whole empowerment. And I think it's such an important skill to have, especially as women are moving into the workforce. I know mine are very young. They're still in junior school, but it's trying to challenge you outside of that comfort zone, that anything that a man can do, women can do too. We have STEM programs, robotics, it's anything that you can challenge. I mean, I remember my daughter's part of the school swim team, and they were so elated that they won the whole championship and they had no men. So there was a boys' school that they were competing in with co-ed teams, and they won the whole piece despite having no men to compete in those. So just hearing, being empowered, being versatile, and the well-roundedness. So it's not just about academics, it's about raising children so that they're well-rounded, because universities are not looking at just academics at this point, because everybody that's applying, they have good grades, they've met those minimum requirements, but what's going to set you apart is being versatile, being agile, being well-rounded. I see how they're being taught critical thinking skills at such an early age, and those are things that they can carry on throughout all facets of their life. So when I'm thinking about that person and what evoked in my mind as I was thinking of how it's somebody like a Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton, those kind of women is who you're seeing come out of the doors of St. Mildred. And that's what the school reminds me of.
Thank you. And I guess, Anne-Marie, we'll move to you now. How would you describe the values of the school and the values of the families in the school community?
I think it's from our conversation today, it's very obvious how the school encourages leadership and academic and just as important, personal success. And I think whatever that means to you as a family, to you as a child, again, it could be someone going out in nature and camping for the first time, or whether it's getting a certain great mark that you haven't achieved before. So I think that the support that is given, that the nurturing that comes from every facet of the school is something that I also see with the parents, with the families that we've got to know over the years. There is very much a like-mindedness from the families, and we all come from different walks of life, different cultures and different backgrounds, but I think that there seems to be that collective wanting the best for our girls, as the faculty do, as the teaching staff do, and I think there is something that maybe you can't quite put your finger on that just provides that very cohesive vibe to the learning environment for the girls. And certainly I think by the time they get to the graduating year and you've got to know many of these families you've known for many years, and you talk about where your child is going or what they're going to be doing, you really get the sense that we've all been kind of walking along a path, kind of side by side, but with a very similar goal in mind. And that's a similar goal that the school has set for the student body. And it's really lovely to gauge that those values are all so well placed and well meaning, and about nothing more than the best for the individual student. And again, whatever that means for that girl, because it can be, can be one thing that it's complete. There are some that are just very academic. There are some who are very academic and sporty, or that have some learning challenges that need to be supported. And I think, the values of the school just help carry each child on this journey to get them to where they want to be. And, as I said, by the time they get to grade 12, and you start seeing them achieve those goals of getting into whichever program or whichever school, you can just sort of reflect and think, wow, it's this kind of community that has helped to get these girls where they want to go. So I hope that's answered your question.
I think so, yeah. Juliet, did you want to add anything from your perspective?
I think Anne-Marie covered it really well, the whole sense of community. And I think there's also this aspect of inclusion and diversity. So there's a lot, as we've seen, when we started, it was, people would think, oh, it's Oakville, it's going to be a very homogenized type of society, but it's very inclusive. There's a lot of different cultures that are represented. And it's really nice to see as we're getting more and more diverse. We see, we have Chinese New Year chapels celebrated. We have Diwali, Black History Month. It's really a bit about community and respecting and appreciating the different walks of life that we all come from. We're not only from Oakville, there's people from all over. And I think it's great to have those voices heard as well. Anne-Marie's touched on this as well, about making sure, and I think the best way in my mind how to summarize is there's really like no girl left behind. It's, we're going to make sure that we are really meeting all children at their point of need. So whether, you're academic and off the charts, and we're going to make sure that we're going to come up with strategies to make sure that we're pushing you to your best ability. And if it's somebody that needs extra help or has an IEP, we're going to make sure that we're going to meet their needs as well. So I think it's that whole holistic and making sure that we're looking at the individual as opposed to just to be a collective is something that I really feel that the school has placed strong values on as well. And it's, it's the whole sense of community and making sure this good connection with the students as well as their teachers. And, you might think, you're just one of 15, one of 18, but the teachers they know each student. And I'll just share one of the issues we had, even during COVID times, online. And we were online and offline and back and forth. And my daughter was experiencing, and I didn't notice, I feel horrible, but I remember that she was not happy one day. And I get to school, and because of the staggered dismissal, so she didn't go off with her class. She was getting picked up with her older sister's class. And I pull up into the kiss and ride, and I see her class teacher. So I waved and I said, "Oh, hi, what are you doing here?" She said, "I was actually looking for you because the teacher had tried my cell phone, my work cell, my home number, and wasn't able to get a hold of me. And she said, I need to speak with you." And so she had taken time out of her schedule, it's the end of day, to come find me and tell me, "I need to speak with you because there's an issue with your child." The fact that she noticed that she wasn't happy and had really taken upon herself to really drill into what was making her not happy and come up with a solution and say, "Okay, I've come to the problem, and this is the action plan that we're going to implement." So that just spoke volumes to me, because it's, although it's, we have a lot of kids moving around, the fact that she noticed and took the time. She could have said, "You know what, I'll leave you a voicemail, we'll catch up tomorrow." She literally came to dismissal looking at all the cars to find me, because she didn't know what car I had, to find me and tell me, "Here's an issue, we need to resolve it." And so that's the kind of school, and that's the kind of, representation that I need to make sure that my child's well-being is always at the forefront of all of the teachers.
Heartwarming to hear a story like that. Thanks, Juliet. And you've both touched a little bit on the impact that the schools had on your girls, but is there anything, Anne-Marie, maybe we'll start with you, anything you wanted to touch on in terms of the impact that the schools had on your three girls?
There are so many different areas. I have to say that during this past year and a half, with the ability to so quickly go online, I've been so impressed with what they have been learning. I don't feel they've really missed a beat from what would have happened in the classroom. I've almost found it somewhat, I'm going to say, embarrassing when I've talked to other parents, be it at other private schools or certainly at other public schools, how unbelievably well St. Mildred's has, and I hate the word pivoted during this time of a pandemic, and the ability that they were able to figure out how when we weren't in a lockdown, how our girls could be in school 5 days a week. At every other school, in the senior school at level, it was part-time, if not less. And just that ability, not only did I feel they were still learning the same, at the same level that they would in regular times, but that structure of getting up and going to school. I mean, maybe her Sophia's classroom was in the lunchroom, but that's okay. She was there. I have been blown away by what they were able to provide all of our girls, and those opportunities, in a year like we have had, I think has meant an awful lot to the girls at St. Mildred's, and had a real, I know they've had a huge impact on helping shoulder some of the impacts of what we've all been going through. But St. Mildred's has provided that little bit of normal, which impacted me, because it was like, okay, get up, take them to school, and sort of, it's like, okay, this is normal. But I sincerely did not know of any other school that was able to provide what St. Mildred's was, and that has become something that I am just so eternally grateful for. Specifically, my eldest daughter was the games captain this year, something she had hoped to achieve, since she was in grade 3. Well, for as much as in the beginning, it might have been a little hesitation about, it's, we're not going to have sports, we're not going to, the different initiatives that she and her advisors developed to keep girls active at lunchtime in cohorts, she heard one girl have her say it at one point, this is the highlight of my week. So to be a mom that saw my daughter have this leadership role that usually is in person, and to see how it impacted her and how she impacted other girls within the school has just been amazing. So for that, I'm just so unbelievably grateful for how they've been able to pivot during this pandemic, and what they've still been able to provide, and do it really very quickly. Actually, this is one last thing that's, I think, within the pandemic heading. So at the beginning of this daughter, Isabel, was supposed to be going down to do her co-op, her placement, which they do in grade 11. And she was supposed to go train down to a consulting firm in Toronto, and it was very exciting. Obviously that couldn't happen. Totally would have expected that the co-op initiative would have been, non-existent. She had a new placement with a different company online that she ended up getting just as much, I'm sure, out of as she would have if she'd have been going into the city. So yeah, I think that's definitely something worth mentioning.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. I think what's at the crux of all the stories you've just shared is the fact that the decision making, on the part of the leadership team of the school really keeps the girls at the heart of everything it is that we do. So, it might have been easier to timetable things or to deliver things differently with having, girls alternating days in the school or something like that. But we knew that wasn't what would serve the girls best. And that, to have the routine, to be part of their school community, to be in school every day was, what was critical. And so it was, how do we find a way to make that happen and make it work for the, so that everyone has the most positive experience possible. And I think, again, to your point about the internship, and yeah, it would have been really easy just to say, well, COVID put a real wrench in those plans and we can't offer the internship this year. But as you pointed out, for 2 years now, they've been able to do those internships and continue on with that program, albeit in a remote way, but in just as rewarding a way. So yeah, I think it's a testament to the fact that the girls are always at the heart of the decisions that are being made, by the school leadership, by the Board of Governors. And Juliet, did you want to add anything further in terms of the impact that the school has had on your girls?
Sure. So just in line with what Anne-Marie said, I mean, from the early years perspective, so in the junior school, I just was really impressed. I kept saying that they sent everything but the desk home, right? They sent all the class packets. Each child had a computer. So they really were well prepared. I loved how they were very agile. We're going to start. And then when we moved to shut down online, there was constant surveys being sent out just so that they could course correct, like what's working, what's not working. They realized from the importance of having that community and that FaceTime with the kids, because especially with my children, I noticed that, they miss being with their friends. Everything was shut down. So feedback was sent, elicited from parents, and they added a session during recess so that there was a teacher that literally sat on as they either played Roblox or had a community time, and just that exchange so that they could still be able to have recess with their friends. So I was really impressed with how the school had, it was a first for everybody worldwide, but really roasted it to the moment, gave us, before school started, those manuals and the return back to school manuals. It was very, very well organized. And like Anne-Marie said, I don't know any other school that had kind of done it to the same level that St. Mildred's has done. So I was very, very impressed with how the school, the faculty, and the communication that was being sent constantly to keep parents aware of what was happening.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of the questions that our kids had posed to us. I have just a couple of additional questions, and then we'll be wrapping up. Juliet, for you, as you research schools in the area for your girls, did you consider the difference between public and independent schools? Was that part of your decision-making process?
So it was, as I said, we started off at preschool, really hadn't thought we're gonna go on. And as Emma was now starting to go into JK, we started thinking, well, is this the school? We looked at the local schools. They, very good schools, but really felt that St. Mildred's was the best fit for her. The small class sizes, the one-on-one attention that she needed for her. So it was pretty easy decision. I mean, we did look and we said, you know what, this just makes the most sense to keep her where she is. And we haven't left since.
Thanks. And I guess for all of you, I'll open it up to all three of you again. What would you say, and we've touched on a lot of this, but in one or two words, what would you say are or were the advantages of an all-girl educational experience, whether it's been for you or for your children?
I could start. I think for them, it was just really being able to focus on, it's that whole confidence and empowerment piece, and the values that are being taught, and really focusing on women issues and how to be a woman, a strong leader, a confident person in today's society. So for me, that's something that I still see great value in. I know the question my daughter now that she's in middle school is starting, well, what's going to happen with prom? But the school has done some great things. Anne Marie has shared, and Alex has shared too, how the school manages that piece. We're still just starting on that piece, but I think it's really just those intrinsic values that they just outweigh the whole co-ed piece for me. So it's working, and why fix something that's broken? Not broken, sorry.
That's okay. Alexandra and Anne Marie, did either of you have anything further to add?
Yeah, I'll echo Juliet on the whole confidence aspect. I think I would not have been able to grow as a person in such a way through a co-ed environment. I think the all girls experience really allowed me to come out of my shell. I feel like I would have still been super shy if I hadn't gone through all of those years. And I think, as I've mentioned before, like being able to express my opinion in the right time and really stand up for it and not let anyone push me down on it. So I'm really thankful I've had those experiences to teach me that.
I think for myself and my girls, I know that I felt I started in grade 9, and remember we had a very dynamic head of school who really truly inspired many of my classmates and myself in terms of recognizing that there was just, shoot for the stars and keep going no matter how old you are. And I'm certainly sort of starting some new things in my life at the age I am, and I recognize that a woman like her and going to a school like that helped inspire me, and I can see it in my girls. Again, I touched on how the older girls are role models for the younger ones, and this girl that my daughter Charlotte had befriended, who eventually became head girl. She was inspiring her in grade 5, let alone when you read what our graduates go off to do in the different areas, the different countries they end up, the different specialties that the paths that they go down. So I think that's a big takeaway for all of us, my girls and myself, is that St. Mildred's inspires. And I think that's a really important thing in life, is to always look for someone that inspires you and makes you want to be better and keep pushing yourself and keep learning. And again, whatever way that whatever is meaningful to you. But certainly inspiration, I think, is something that a Millie takes away when they leave, and always keeps it in their heart.
I like that. What we always say, once a milli, always a milli, right? For families that may have questions about the value of an all-girls environment, I do encourage you to visit the SMLS website, which is smls.on.ca, to learn more about the advantages of a girls' school and of an all-girls environment. And I also encourage you to visit the National Coalition of Girls School website, ncgs.org. It's also a great resource if you have any question about that, that added value of the all-girls environment. And finally, I have one last question for all of our panelists, and that is there anything else that you think we haven't touched on today that families ought to know about SMLS? And maybe we've covered most of what you think people should know, but Juliet, I saw your mic come off, so maybe there's something we might have missed.
So I just want to encourage, and I think Alex had touched on this, for people that are coming in, not necessarily at the entry points of JK, so who would be deemed new, if you will. We have a great new family liaison program where you are partnered with a parent. They'll usually organize a meet and greet so that your child, when they do start at the school, will at least know a few familiar faces, so they won't feel shy. They'll at least have some few friendly faces to welcome them on the first day of school. This is a volunteer role, and it's very well run. I think a lot of new families really appreciate this connection, because there's a lot of questions on uniforms. We use a lot of colloquialisms like internal SMLS terms. So it's a really great way for families to be welcomed. And I really do applaud the school for starting this initiative and partnering new families with the Family Liaison Program. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that program as well.
And of course, you're one of our passionate NFL, so we thank you for your commitment. I think, Anne-Marie, you've been in NFL too over the years, right?
I have, and I would just sort of echo Juliet's sentiments that I think that parents might be surprised at how many fun events there are that are on offer for the girls, but the parents as well. Thinking of our gala that happens every other year in normal times, which is it's something we all look forward to and really enjoy. And because of the community that's fostered within the school, you really do get to, whether you are a full-time working parent or maybe you're at home, you get to, there are always opportunities that you're meeting other parents. And so when you get to the opportunity to get together, like for the gala, or doing something with your daughter, like the mother-daughter event, or the father-daughter dinner dance that's a lovely tradition that we certainly have missed out on the past couple of years. But the traditions that the school offers that give an opportunity for parents to come along with their kids is really, that's just part of what helps create this very special environment. There's a lot of getting to know other families, and that's sort of an added piece to your time at St. Mildred's, I think, when you can become friends, get to know the parents of your daughter's friends and classmates.
And I think, speaking from like a student perspective, I think one thing I really want to highlight is the fact that a lot of my friends, after graduation, they're not the girls I've known since necessarily since junior kindergarten, but they're also girls that I've met throughout the various years, and we still keep in touch. We're still best friends. We hang out all the time, and I think that just speaks to the community that is fostered at SMLS.
Thank you all so much for your insights today. And, Alexandra, Anne-Marie, and Juliet, your time today, your thoughtfulness today, the stories that you've shared, they're just so wonderful. So each of you has a unique SMLS experience, and I really thank you for sharing it with our broader community today. And for those who may be tuning in and watching along today, through the Our Kids admissions pathway, I encourage you to reach out to the SMLS admissions office if you have any questions about SMLS or about specifics of the admissions process. As a school with students from preschool through grade 12, you can imagine that the application varies somewhat depending on the grade to which your child is applying, but we're happy to walk you through that process should you wish. And additionally, you can visit our website, smls.on.ca, to learn more about the school and to register for our upcoming open houses. Thank you again to everyone and have a wonderful day.